At a number 10 spot, we have the Octagon House. This building is considered to be the most haunted home in all of DC, and after reading about this, I think it could be one of the most haunted places in North America. It was built by Colonel John Taylor back in the year 1801. The builder had its close connections to the presidents, and after the White House burned in 1812, President James and Dolly Madison lived there for a temporary time. Now it's claimed that the entire house is haunted by the daughters of Colonel John Taylor. His first daughter passed away before the War of 1812, and the other ones passed away shortly after the year 1817. They are known to follow visitors around until they decide to leave the house altogether. As well, the house has been said to hold slaves back in the day, and many say the spirits of these slaves still remain inside of the house. There used to be a ring inside of the building to call the slaves, but after the War of 1812, the bell would seem to be ringing non-stop. In another instance, a gambler was even shot on the 3rd floor of this building, and many visitors claim they still see his lifeless body on the bed during some nights. At a number 9 spot, we have the St. Elizabeth Psychiatric Hospital. Opening in 1855, St. Elizabeth was the first federally operated psychiatric hospital in the United States, and at the time, it would house as many as 8,000 patients. Over the years, many people came to this hospital for treatment of their mental illnesses, as well as to house many of the wounded during the Civil War. However, by the 1950s, the hospital was under heavy criticism for the way they treated their patients, which caused many to pass away there as well. Then over the years, they would begin to lose more and more patients until temporarily closing down in 2002. Now that the east side of the campus has a new facility with new patients, many workers have claimed that it's one of the most haunted places in DC. Overnight staff workers claim to hear constant groaning sounds in the places of the hospital that aren't being used. And also as well, many people claim to see the spirit of Dr. Walter Freeman, who can be seen in the morgue performing lobotomies, considering he was one of the pioneers of the psychosurgery. At number 8 spot, we have the Congressional Cemetery. The Congressional Cemetery, or the Washington Parish Burial Ground, was established all the way in 1807, and nowadays it has as many as 65,000 graves occupying the grounds. This number alone should tell you that you may feel the presence of more than a few entities in this area. One notorious ghost spotted in the area is Civil War photographer Matthew Brady. Story goes that the Congress promised him money to take war photos, but when he brought them the photos, they never ended up paying him, not even $1. So in the end, he died with nothing to his name. Nowadays, he terrorizes the graves of the government officials who denied him compensation, and if you try to take a photo of his ghost, you'll find that your device is now broken. Over the years, this place has gone through many different grave robbers, which led to many disturbed spirits scattered around the entire cemetery. So, for a warning, visit this place at your own risk. At number 7 spot, with the Omni Shoreman Hotel. This grand hotel was built in 1930, and ever since its opening, there has been hundreds of reports from visitors claiming to see something supernatural within. It all started when one of the hotel's financial partners named Henry Doherty moved his entire family from what is now known as Suite 870. On their first night, their maid Juliet Brown called the hotel desk in a panic to tell them that she wasn't feeling good, but then before anyone could get to her room, she just passed away. Soon after, Mr. Doherty's wife and daughter would pass away. This would make Henry distraught, leaving the hotel with that suite being unoccupied for the next 50 years. Then, when Henry's apartment was converted into a hotel suite and reopened, staff and guests would claim to hear the sounds of faint voices coming from the dark corners of the room. And many reported that around 4 a.m., all the electronics inside of the room, including the lights and the TV, would aggressively flicker for a short time period. Now the room has been called the Ghost Suite, and I dare any of you guys to try a night at this place if you're in the area. At number 6 spot, we have Escaping Alcatraz. Frank Morris was surprisingly an intelligent criminal with an IQ of over 130. He was born in Washington, D.C., and his parents abandoned him when he was only 11 years old, so he spent the rest of his childhood in foster homes. He was convicted of his first criminal offense at 13, and by his late teens had been arrested for crimes ranging from narcotic possession to armed robbery. He spent most of his early years in jail serving lunch to prisoners. The odd thing is that Morris was reportedly ranked in the top 2% of the general population in intelligence. He was measured by the IQ testing and he got a score of 133. He served time in Florida and Georgia, then escaped from the Louisiana State Penitentiary while serving 10 years for bank robbery. He was recaptured a year later while committing another burglary and sent to Alcatraz on January 20th, 1960 as inmate number AZ-1441. He was part of the infamous 5-person crew who managed to escape Alcatraz. The crew used a raft made of raincoats and fake heads they sculpted during their time there to just trick all the guards. In the hump of our list, we have the Old Brick Capitol. This building once stood where the USS Supreme Court building stands, so it has a very rich history associated with it. The Old Brick Capitol was built in 1815 and was used as a temporary Capitol building for the United States. Throughout its time, it also served as a private school, a prison, and a boarding house during the Civil War. During its time as a prison, it was one of the most abusive ones. It had poor living conditions, and most of the prisoners were far more depressed than in any other prison in the world. This lack of care and attention caused many prisoners to pass away in the process, so it's no surprise that many came back as vengeful spirits. Visitors to the land report hearing banging on metal bars and distant cries of former convicts pleading for their lives. Many of the people can hear a person crying throughout their entire visit. Despite being kind of annoying, I don't think you would be brave enough to tell a person to stop doing this, especially if it's a full-fledged ghost. At number 4 spot, we have the British soldier fire starter. It was during the War of 1812 that the Great Burning of Washington occurred. In this attack, many important buildings in the capital were burned down, including the White House, then called the Presidential Mansion. Then things got unexpectedly worse for the British. As the US government fled the White House, the British thought victory was near. But then a grand-scale thunderstorm alongside a tornado swept the entire area around the White House, killing both British soldiers and American civilians in the process. If you can imagine a Michael Bay movie, that's exactly how I picture this scene going down. Now, it's said that a lonesome British soldier whose garments date all the way back to the 1800s appears on the White House lawn every now and again. It's said that the soldier is still roaming around the lawn of the White House with a rather large torch, almost as if the flame was eternal. At number 3 spot, we have Mary Todd Lincoln. Wife of Abraham Lincoln, Mary Todd Lincoln was said to have practiced spiritualism in the White House frequently. Influenced by the death of her second son, spiritualism was practiced by Mary to communicate with him and others she held dear in the afterlife. She would report speaking to her late son daily and would conduct seances within the walls of the White House. As word broke out, desperate families would come to her seeking the unknown. And in the midst of the Civil War, many widowed wives came to her in order to speak to their husbands. Mary would begin to notice strange things in the White House, such as hearing stomping and swearing in the room of former President Andrew Jackson, known as the Rose Room. At number 2 spot, we have the Demon Cat. Spotted time and time again around the White House, the Demon Cat takes on many different variations, to different people appearing as a normal-sized cat to some and as large as an elephant to others. The Secret Service has reported seeing paw prints around the White House, which is surprising since no pets are allowed in this White House. The weird thing is that the cat only appears during a presidential switch or a national tragedy. Basically, we can call it the bearer of bad news, and potentially this is where we get the idea of an unlucky black cat. At a number 1 spot, we have an Illuminati-influenced street design. When people begin to look at Washington, D.C. from a bird's eye view, many have realized that the street designs incorporates the use of occult symbols, including an inverted pentagram with the bottom pointing directly at the White House. An anti-Masonic Christian named Ed Decker said, quote, "The satanic pentagram under which the White House sits is an open door through which Satan has access to our president." So the person who designed the streets was a visionary planner named Pierre-Charles Lafont. And to many, he was considered to be a Freemason or at least part of the Illuminati. However, after deeper research, I found that he was inspired by the city of Karlsruhe, Germany, so he didn't take inspiration from any other group. Anyways, many parts of the street resemble Christian crosses as well, so easily another conspiracy theory could be made. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong and he is related to some sort of satanic group. At our number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Tramping Ground. Located in the dense forest of the Harper Crossroad area in Bear Creek, North Carolina, lies a camping ground known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. And I know, the name alone should tell you all about the place, because in local lore, they suggest this is the location where the devil, quote, tramps. And this has caused a small circle of area to become lifeless and never have the ability to grow anything. Locals have tried to revive the area by planting various seeds and also using fertilizers, but nothing seems to be able to fully grow within this circle of land. Some historians believe this was also an ancient meeting place for local Native American tribes. They would come here to do ceremonial dances and other festivals. But in the 1930s, newspapers were hit with the news that a beast was guarding these grounds. The story read, quote, "Coon and possum hunters and their dogs have been on more than one occasion chased from the vicinity of the Devil's Tramping Ground by a ferocious beast said to resemble a black bear." At a number 9 spot, we have Dana Auditorium. Located in Greensboro, North Carolina is Guilford College. This place was built all the way back in 1837, so it went through countless waves of students. Most of the places in the college are completely normal, but in the 1960s, the Dana Auditorium was constructed, and it housed the Guilford College Music Department. However, they failed to realize the history of the grounds they built on. Across the street from the campus are graves of men dating back to the 18th century who passed away during the Revolutionary War, and many believe that the location where the Dana Auditorium stands is the same location of the hospital used to take care of these soldiers, and where many ended up passing away. Many students and staff members recall feelings of cold spots and the feeling of being grabbed by something they just can't see. Others report a soldier wearing clothing from the 18th century, and they say it's a soldier who passed away at the former hospital, but he's not harmful. Instead, he just acts as a protector of the area. At number 8 spot, we have the Ship of Fire. Off the coast of Ocracoke Island, it's said that on the night of the new moon each September, you are able to spot a ghostly ship that appears out of nowhere, engulfed in flames, and it slowly goes closer and closer to land before completely vanishing out of thin air. The legend goes that this was the ship of the Palatines. These were a group of German Protestants who originally left England back in the day. As they were on the boat, they pretended to be poor and hide their golds and coins and other extremities from the corrupt captain and his crew. And this is the part when they messed up. Because when they began to see the shores of North America, they just started to celebrate, showing all their valuables in a rush to get off of the land. The captain and his crew began to see the amount of wealth their passengers had and decided to postpone the docking and wait till the next day. So during the night, the captain and his crew proceeded to murder every Palatine on board, which included all sorts of ages. Then they left on small boats and they torched the entire ship behind. At number 7 spot, we have the vampire beast of Bladenboro. During the 1950s, something was going out and leaving behind a lot of dead dogs around the woods of Bladen County. Eventually, news outlets would begin to report a creature that is so strong that it's just going out and attacking everything in sight. This animal was reported to be draining the blood of neighborhood animals, 8 dogs, a family of kittens, and at least 1 lamb. Early eyewitnesses report that the beast was around 100 pounds, and many thought it was just another wolf or mountain lion. However, it wasn't until the beast attacked its first and only human. The next day, the police chief said the town of 790 people was as quiet as he's ever known it. Eventually, everyone was strapped up and were ready to kill whatever beast that was out there on a killing spree. However, the beast seemed to have vanished from the town. At number 6 spot, we have Lake Norman. You guys are gonna get sick of this, but I guess there's literally a version of the Loch Ness Monster in every single state of the US. North Carolina's version is Normie.
We keep killing Normie.
Lake Norman is the largest man-made body of fresh water in the state, and ever since, it's been under heavy speculation of what lies underneath the depths. For example, prior to the year 2000, there weren't many reports of alligators, but nowadays it seems like they're native to the lake. So that brings up the question, what else became native to Lake Norman? Many people believe the answer to that question is a beast closely resembling the Loch Ness Monster. It's a long serpentine creature with scaly fins, and it's been reported to chase fast boats and even bump into water skiers and swimmers. On one occasion, a professional scuba diver encountered this creature and said it bit off one of his flippers clean off. However, others believe it could just be a mutant fish because this is a man-made lake. Who knows? It could be from all the pollution. In the hump of our list, we have the Balsam Mountain Inn. Located in Balsam, North Carolina, is a wooden hotel now known as the Grand Old Lady Hotel. But for the context of everything supernatural, we're just gonna call it by its original name, the Balsam Mountain Inn. This hotel was built all the way back in 1908 by 2 brothers-in-laws, Joseph Kenny and Walter Christie, in hopes to expand their business. While other hotels in the area were failing to start, the Balsam Mountain Inn was in a very good area, so they had plenty of business. By the late 1980s, the entire hotel was emptied out, however, as all things must come to an end. Then in December of 2017, a business person by the name of Marzina bought the hotel, but her first warnings were from the former owners and staff claiming that it was haunted. Marzina decided to report her own findings, and after sleeping in one of the rooms, she claimed to have been woken up in the middle of the night and have her blanket taken off of her. At number 4 spot, we have Brown Mountain Lights. In Pisgah National Forest is the Brown Mountain, and many visitors and locals have reported a series of ghost lights or orbs that pop out of nowhere. According to Cherokee history, a significant battle between the Cherokee and the Catawba Indians took place at Brown Mountain around the year 1200 AD. The unexplained lights are thought to be the result of Indian maidens still looking for their husbands who perished in the battle. These lights can be seen in many different colors, including white, red, yellow, orange, and even blue. On top of that, the lights have been inspected by the US government 3 times, numerous times by private companies, and frequently by the Appalachian University students. And no one has been able to give a proper explanation to this. And to this day, these lights will always be a mystery. So the best way to find out about them is just to go and check them out for yourself. At our number 3 spot, we have the Highland Hospital. Located in Asheville, North Carolina is the infamous Highland Hospital. It was built in 1904 by Dr. Robert S. Carroll, and it became a mental institution to take care of those who had nervous diseases. As the years went by, the hospital would decay from the inside inside out. In 1948, a fire engulfed a section of the hospital, causing the deaths of American novelist and painter Zelda Fitzgerald along with 8 other patients. For those who don't know, Zelda Fitzgerald was the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, who is the one who wrote The Great Gatsby. And she was in the hospital because she had to undergo an electroshock therapy but got trapped due to this fire. Nowadays, the place is a recovery home for teens and young adults, but many of the residents and workers claim to see the spirit of Zelda. She can be seen walking through the halls, and others even report talking to Zelda, but much of that conversation is a whole lot of confusion, and she ends up vanishing by the end of it. At number 2 spot, with the Biltmore Estate. Originally built to be a vacation home for George Washington Vanderbilt, the Biltmore Estate was a grand mansion that happened to be the largest home in the country at the time. Several past guests and even employees have related tales of hearing a voice continually speaking the name George in the hallways. It is believed that Edith Vanderbilt herself, who is thought to be another spirit that is said to also reside in the mansion, is walking the halls and maybe looking for her husband. Some of the groundskeepers who worked that night had overheard party-like conversations, glass clinking, and laughter. However, the only issue is that nobody is hosting any sort of party during these times. The family never had a pet, but visitors claim to see a headless orange cat walking out in the garden and usually shows up before bad luck strikes a person. The area around the estate is pretty haunted as well because back in the day, many hangings were done and these spirits are still trapped in the area. At number 1 spot, we have the Helen's Bridge. In Asheville, North Carolina is one of the coolest looking, but also one of the scariest bridges in America. You guys can be the judge of that by the end of this point. It's been said that Helen's Bridge has been haunted for nearly 100 years since its construction in 1909. The bridge was created in order to have a roadway connecting a mansion to the rest of Asheville, but it just made sense at the time, right? So how did the bridge get its name? Story goes that a single woman named Helen lived in Asheville with her infant daughter. One day while cooking, a large fire engulfed the entire home, causing her to rush out of it, leaving her daughter behind. The entire house would end up burning down, and after she received news of her daughter's passing, she just completely broke down mentally. Then one day, Helen decided to take a walk to the nearby woods, and before coming across this bridge to the mansion, she hung herself on one of the steel posts. People who have driven to the bridge have recalled dealing with car trouble despite no prior symptoms. Issues like drained batteries, engine stalling, and other mechanical issues were said to have been reported. At number 10 spot, we have the Skin Tom. This is a well-known one across the entire state, so I apologize in advance if I don't do this story justice. But somewhere in Wallen, Tennessee, a young man named Tom was living a very privileged life by many of our standards. He was a very good-looking person, he was funny, and very intellectual. Basically, a giga-chat. Being like this, he attracted many partners, but after every single one, he was just never satisfied. It wasn't until he met a girl from the town over where his whole perspective changed. He admired her beauty over anything and became enticed immediately. But there was one thing he didn't consider. She was already married. And Tom being Tom, he still went after the girl. Eventually, the lady's husband will become aware of this affair and decide to track down Tom to get his ultimate revenge. So one day he followed his wife to Lover's Lane as she was meeting up with Tom. And when the two hugged, the husband came out of nowhere and grabbed Tom from the vehicle and carried him into the woods. When the cops arrived, they found a full suit of human skin hanging from a tree. Now if you go to Lover's Lane, you may catch a glimpse of Tom's horrific skinned body, but that's only if you're unfaithful. At number 9 spot, we have the Pine Haven School. Somewhere in Jamestown, Tennessee, there's an abandoned all-boys school that was the site of many horrific things back in the day. The legend of the school goes that a group of bullies were bugging and taunting another classmate inside of the bathroom. At first, they were just shoving him around and calling him names, but the abuse just didn't stop there and only proceeded to get worse. It was then one of the boys stuck behind him and pushed him straight into the bathroom mirror. After coming into contact with the mirror, he immediately shattered it, causing a shard of glass to cut his neck, killing him within minutes. In an attempt to cover up their actions, they decided to put the body underneath the floor beds underneath the sink of the bathroom. And after that incident, the bullies were caught, but the students of the school said that the boy's spirit never left the bathroom. There were many claims saying that if you went into this boy's bathroom and looked into one of the mirrors, you may catch a glimpse of his bloody apparition staring behind you. In some accounts, people claim to be pushed by an unseeable force when looking into this mirror. But it all doesn't matter now since the school was abandoned in the 90s. At number 8 spot with the Flintville Monster. During the 1970s, a creature described to look like Bigfoot was terrorizing the people of Flintville, Tennessee. The monster would come out of the forest and begin to slaughter people's livestock, abduct children, and even go after and attack people's vehicles. The first sighting was in April 1976 when a woman decided to call the cops and report that a 7 to 8 feet tall hairy creature had come out of the forest, came straight to her car, pulled the radio antennas off of them, and then proceeded to jump on top of the roof of her car. This story would kickstart the legend of the Flintville monster, and many people would come out to report their own experiences with this creature. At our number 7 spot, we have the Chickamauga battlefield. The second bloodiest battle in the Civil War happened in southeastern Tennessee. This battle started in September 1863, and by the end of it, there were more than 34,000 lives lost, and many of the injured Union soldiers were left on the field for weeks, only to be buried into unmarked graves by their enemies. The sight of restless souls is why many believe that they still linger on the battlefield, awaiting another potential conflict. One of the spirits found on the battlefield is the Lady in White. Many see her floating across the field, looking down as if she's looking for her husband who passed away during the war. However, the most infamous ghost found on the premises is known as Green Eyes. Locals believe that only his head was found in the rubble, and when they looked at it, they immediately noticed his piercing green eyes. Ever since they discovered his remains, he has appeared to people walking on the battlefield. This is either in the form of a headless man or a half man, half beast with sharp fangs and notorious green eyes. At our number 6 spot, we have the Spearfinger. In the mountains of Tennessee, the Cherokee tribe told a story that haunted people for generations. It was said that a vampiric humanoid would walk along the nearby river and creeks looking for children. They would do this by shape-shifting themselves as an innocent, fragile old woman, and when the children began to trust them even a little bit, they would use their spear-like finger to stab directly through the child's heart. Yeah, I know, pretty brutal. From here, they would consume their favorite part of the body, which is the liver. But apart from their tendencies to hunt, they're also said to have the power to control any stone, no matter the size. This creature could fuse 2 stones together just by using its mind, and could even place large boulders above their victims with ease in order to completely squish them to death. Eventually, a great council was created to put an end to the Spearfinger. Once they trapped the creature, they noticed that arrows and knives did nothing to their stone skin. It wasn't until a bird landed on the creature's right hand when they began to notice that she carried her heart there. They began to direct their aim towards her hand, which eventually ended up killing it, ending the curse of Spearfinger for good. In the hump of our list, we have the Tennessee State Prison. Built in 1898, this castle-looking prison was open for almost an entire century, and during its time, it housed many of America's most notorious criminals. It was a maximum security facility, but it was also notorious for their poor living conditions and their constant riots. For example, in 1902, a group of 17 prisoners would break out of their cells and start a riot within the jail, with one of the prisoners being murdered and 2 of the 17 prisoners actually escaping. Then in 1939, another jailbreak occurred with the prisoners setting fire to some areas of the prison, including the dining room, which ended up killing a few more of the workers and other prisoners. Then during the years 1975 to 1985, there were countless other riots and jailbreaks within the prison. People who have previously visited the old Tennessee State Prison have described what they think to be the sounds of cell bars clanking, spine-chilling cries, and footsteps that seem to echo throughout the halls when no one else is there. Eventually, the prison would be abandoned in 1992 due to its inhumane conditions and the fact that the building was completely unstable. At number 4 spot, we have the Shiloh National Park. With another Civil War battlefield on this list, we have the Shiloh National Park. This place is located in southwestern Tennessee, and many locals claim that the spirits of the soldiers still occupy the grounds. The Battle of Shiloh occurred in 1862, which had a total of 100,000 American soldiers with over 20,000 casualties. After the years following the war, many visitors to the national park claim that this place is one of the most haunted places in the state. This is because some say that when they're in an isolated part of the field, they hear war drums and the sounds of muskets firing in the distance. Some even claim that the nearby pond randomly turns red, symbolizing the blood of the men who passed away there. In the cemetery nearby, it holds as many as 3,500 Civil War soldiers, with over 2,000 of them being unnamed. After that many deaths in one certain place, it's really no surprise that there's something supernatural happening. At number 3 spot, we have the Orpheum Theater. Built in 1928, the Orpheum Theater in Memphis, Tennessee has been the stage for performers and audiences to this day. As years went by, many watchers report small bits of supernatural activity, ranging from being tapped on the shoulders by unseeable forces to being whispered from underneath their seats. So as the reports started to pile up, psychics and other paranormal investigators decided to investigate the theater. After their findings, they concluded that there were at least 7 spirits that made the place their home. The most famous out of the the seven is a woman named Mary. Story goes that in 1921, there was another building standing on the grounds of the Orpheum Theater, which was named the Grand Opera House. Here, 12-year-old Mary passed away right in front of the house after being caught in a hit-and-run accident. Now she is spotted by the majority of visitors, notorious for wearing old-fashioned clothing and dancing around the theater when someone is performing. At number 2 spot, with the ghostly bride of Rotherwood Mansion. Frederick Ross, the town's founder, is also the owner of the Rotherford Mansion in Kingsport. Ever since moving into the mansion, his daughter Rowena lived a very miserable life, losing both her first husband to yellow fever and then her second husband on the day of their wedding. She eventually had a daughter after her third marriage, but as time went by, her daughter too would pass away. Rowena was overpowered by her sadness and ultimately committed suicide. It is thought that she now haunts the estate. The ghost is now known as the Ghost Bride because it is thought to wear all white clothing walking around the grounds. At number 1 spot, with the Bell Witch Cave. This one literally has the word witch in its name, so you know there's probably nothing good about it. According to the legend of the Bell Witch, in 1804, a farmer named John Bell moved his wife and his kids to a farm along the Red River in northern Robertson County. The property also included a cave, which became known as the Bell Witch Cave, believed to be haunted by the spirit of a witch named Kate Batts. This woman felt she was cheated by the Bells in the land purchase and ever since carried a strong dislike for the Bell family. Then when John Bell passed away under suspicious circumstances, people believed it to be the witch who was supposedly hiding in that very cave. 10th spot, we're the Warren Occult Museum. The Warren Occult Museum is a museum located in Monroe, Connecticut. It was founded by paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. You know, the ones from Conjuring? Yeah. It was dedicated for preserving and displaying artifacts related to the supernatural and the occult. As we see in the films, this place has objects ranging from cursed witch voodoo to innocent looking toys with murderous histories. Rightfully so, the Warren Occult Museum is known for its association with its own hauntings. For example, at many different times, the guests and even the Warrens believed that it was haunted by the ghost of the object it contained, no matter how much preparation was made to prevent it from happening. Other visitors claim that the museum is actually haunted by the ghost of Ed Warren himself. The legend says that the ghost of Ed Warren can be seen in the museum and that his presence can be felt by those who enter. Other notable objects in this museum include Annabelle the doll, the Devil Made Me Do It dinosaur toy. At a number 9 spot, we the Witch of Wooster Square. The Witch of Wooster Square is a ghostly figure that is said to haunt the streets of New Haven. The legend of the Witch of Wooster Square is thought to have originated in the early 1800s when New Haven was a bustling city and Wooster Square was a popular gathering place. At the time, the square was home to many shops, taverns, and other small businesses. However, this was still a time when the witch hysteria was ongoing, so it didn't take long until all the townsfolk accused one lady of being a full-fledged witch. The lady was said to be a very beautiful, but also a very mysterious and reclusive person, which just gave more reason to believe that she was hiding something and therefore a witch at the time. Over time, people started to fear her as locals claimed the lady would cast spells and curses on those who crossed her. The legend of the Witch of Wooster Square grew, and people began to claim that they had seen the ghostly figure of a woman on the streets of the square. Some claimed to have seen her floating through the air, but regardless, visitors claim to feel a different type of energy when they're here at this place. At our number 8 spot, we have the Green Lady. The Green Lady is a popular story in Connecticut. According to the legend, the Green Lady was a woman who lived in a mansion in the woods outside of a small town in Connecticut. She was known for her beauty and her love of nature, and she would often be seen walking through the woods wearing a long flowing green dress. However, one day, the Green Lady disappeared without a trace. It is said that her ghost now haunts these woods, still wearing her green dress and looking for her lost love. Some people claim to have seen her standing amongst the trees with a sad and wistful expression on her face. Others have reported hearing her mournful cries in the night. Despite the creepy nature of this story, many people are drawn to the legend of the Green Lady and continue to search for her ghost in the woods of Connecticut. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the story of this is a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the depths of the forest. At a number 7 spot, with the New London Ledge Lighthouse. The New London Ledge Lighthouse is a historic lighthouse located in New London, Connecticut. It was situated on a small island at the entrance to the harbor and has been in operation since 1909. There are several scary stories associated with this lighthouse. One of the most famous is the story of a former lighthouse keeper named Captain Richard Phillips. According to the legend, Captain Phillips was a gruff and stern man who was not well liked by the other lighthouse keepers. One night, while he was on duty at the lighthouse, Captain Phillips had a heart attack and passed away. Since his death, many people have reported seeing his ghost still at the lighthouse. Some say that he is seen walking the halls, still carrying out his duties as the lighthouse keeper. Others have reported hearing strange noises and seeing strange lights coming from the lighthouse at night. Despite his ghost, the New London Ledge Lighthouse will always remain a popular tourist attraction and a beloved symbol of New England's maritime history. At our number 6 spot with the White Lady of Union Cemetery. The White Lady is a ghostly woman who is sent to haunt the Union Cemetery in Easton. According to the legend, the White Lady was a young woman who was tragically killed in a car accident near this cemetery. Ever since, her ghost is said to still be here, appearing as a white-clad figure floating among the graves. Many people have reported seeing the White Lady at this cemetery, and that her ghost is said to be particularly active on foggy nights. Some say that if you see this White Lady, it means someone you know will pass away soon. So best keep your eyes closed if you come here. Others claim that she is a benevolent spirit who brings good luck to those who see her. Over the time, the legend of the White Lady grew, and people began wondering if she was either good or if she was bad. But one thing was for sure, when you come to this cemetery, chances are you'll probably catch a glimpse of her spirit. In the hump of her list, we have the Litchfield Hills. The Litchfield Hills is a scenic region in northwestern Connecticut, known for its rolling hills and charming small towns. Locals claim that Litchfield Hills is actually haunted by the ghost of a woman named Elizabeth. According to the legend, Elizabeth was a woman who lived in Litchfield Hills in the 1800s. After she saw the passing of her children, she was so overcome with grief and despair that she turned to the dark arts to seek revenge on those who wronged her in life. Filled with extreme rage, she ran to these fields and stayed here until she passed away, murdering everyone who walked by. They say that she could still be seen wandering the hills, but as a ghost form, and that her presence can be felt by any of those who encounter her. As well, there's a farmhouse nestled away here that was built in 1790. This house seemed to be a spot for many different paranormal occurrences that even Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated and dubbed it the Ghost Central. At a number 4 spot with the Norwich State Hospital. The Norwich State Hospital was a psychiatric hospital located in Norwich, Connecticut. It was in operation from 1904 to 1996, known for its overcrowding, inadequate staffing, and poor conditions, which included reports of physical and SA of patients. During its time of being active, workers and patients claimed to see the ghosts from inside of these walls, and to this day, people believe these spirits are still here. They are said to be the spirits of the patients who passed away here after being left untreated and not taken care of. They also say sections of the hospital are haunted by the ghost of a nurse who was murdered there by a former patient. As mentioned, the hospital has closed down and many of the buildings were demolished, but the site still holds a reputation for being haunted and is still considered a popular location for ghost hunters, at least around the ruined grounds. Number 3, Devil's Footsteps. The Devil's Footsteps are a mysterious set of footprints that appear and disappear without any explanation in the woods of Danbury. The legend of the Devil's Footsteps is thought to have originated in the 1800s when the woods of Danbury were home to many settlers and farmers. At the time, it was said that a man named John Rugg was walking through the woods when he heard a strange otherworldly voice calling out his name. When he turned to look, he saw a pair of footprints in the snow that were not his own. Over time, the legend of the Devil's Footprints grew, and people began to claim that they seen these mysterious footprints in the woods following behind them. Some said that the footprints would appear and disappear without any explanation, while others claimed that they would hear the voice of the devil calling out their name, and ever since, this has been a mystery. Number 2, Chasing Youth. The Chasing Youth is a spirit that is said to haunt the old Mark Twain house in Hartford. The legend of the Chasing Youth is thought to have originated in the late 1800s when the Mark Twain house was home to the famous writer and his family. At the time, it was said that Twain's wife, Olivia, was plagued by a strange illness that caused her to lose her youth and beauty. In her desperation to regain her youth, it is said that Olivia turned to the dark arts and summoned a spirit known as the Chasing Youth. Over time, the legend of the Chasing Youth grew. Eventually, more and more people would begin seeing this Chasing Youth creature. Some have said they can still hear the sounds of footsteps and other strange noises inside of this house, and they could also feel the presence of the Chasing Youth even when they couldn't even see her. At a number 1 spot, we have Union Cemetery. Union Cemetery is a historic cemetery located in Easton, Connecticut. The cemetery was established in 1740 and is the final resting place for many of the town's early settlers and notable residents. It is known for its beautiful grounds, historic headstones, and its association with several legends and other ghost stories. One such legend is that of the cemetery is haunted by the ghost of a woman known as the White Lady. Although there are many different variations of this story, here's another one. According to some, the White Lady is a ghostly figure that can be seen walking the the cemetery at night, and she is often associated with a particular grave in the cemetery. Another legend associated with this place is that it's haunted by a man who was wrongfully accused and executed for murder. The legend says that the man's ghost can be seen in the cemetery and that its presence can be felt by those who enter, and some visitors claim that they've walked up to him and they've seen him talk, saying that he's asking them for forgiveness. At the number 10 spot, we have the Frost Giants. The legend of the Frost Giants in Maine is a popular story that has been passed down through countless generations. According to the legend, the Frost Giants of Maine were these tall, ghostly figures that appear in the woods on cold winter nights. They're said to be covered in frost and ice, and they roam the forest looking for victims to freeze and murder. The legend of the Frost Giants is said to have originated with the indigenous Wabanaki people who lived in Maine for thousands of years. The Wabanaki believed that the Frost Giants were powerful spirits who could control the weather and bring cold and snow to the land. They also believe the Frost Giants were protectors of the forest, and they say that they would punish those who harm the land or its inhabitants. Many people who lived in the rural areas of Maine still believe in these Frost Giants, claiming to have seen them wandering the woods on cold winter nights. Some even say that the Frost Giants can be heard howling in the distance on some nights, but ultimately their mystery will be forever frozen in time. Number 9, the Kennebec Arsenal. The Kennebec Arsenal was a military arsenal and armory located in Augusta, Maine. The arsenal was built in 1828 and was used for the manufacture, storage, and repair of weapons and munitions for the United States Army. It was in operation until 1894, when it was decommissioned and the equipment and weapons were moved to other locations. However, visitors to this place claim that it has been haunted ever since closing down. Many claim that the arsenal is haunted by the ghosts of the soldiers who passed away while working there. According to the legend, these ghosts can be heard marching and drilling in the empty halls of the arsenal, and sometimes their figures can be seen wandering the grounds. Another legend associated with this place is that it's haunted by the ghost of a woman who was killed in a tragic accident inside of the arsenal. Locals say that the woman's ghost can be heard crying and moaning inside, and that her ghostly figure can sometimes be seen sitting inside of these halls. Overlooking the Kennebec River, this building is still a favorite for hikers, but don't be surprised if you encounter one of their many ghosts they have here. Number 8, the Pawnalboro Ghost. The Pawnalboro Ghost is a spirit that is said to haunt the old courthouse in the town of Pawnalboro. The story of the Pawnalboro Ghost is thought to have originated in the late 1700s, back to the times when the courthouse was still in use. At the time, the courthouse was the site of many trials and executions, and it was said that the ghosts of those who were wrongfully convicted or unfairly sentenced were returned to haunt this building. And honestly, if I was in the same position, I would too. Over time, the legend of the Pawnalboro Ghost grew, and people began to make claim that they had seen the ghostly apparition of a man inside of the courthouse. Some claim to have seen him standing in the courtroom, while others have seen him wandering the halls and even appearing in the windows of the building. Nowadays, the building hosts haunted tours, so if you want to see the man everyone is talking about, this might be your best opportunity. Number 7, the Old Orchard Beach Monster. The Old Orchard Beach Monster is a mysterious sea creature that is said to have been sighted off the coast of Old Orchard Beach. Sightings of this monster are thought to have originated in the early 1900s, when the beach was a popular summer destination for tourists and locals alike. At the time, people would go swimming in the ocean, and some claim to have seen a strange serpent-like creature swimming in the waters near the beach. Over time, the legend of the Old Orchard Beach Monster grew, and the people began to claim that they had seen the creature on multiple occasions while visiting this place. Some claimed to have seen it swimming near the shore, while others said they have seen it lurking in the deeper waters off the shore. Many decomposed whales wash ashore here as well, which many crowds of people believe that the serpent water is responsible for them. However, no physical evidence proves its existence or even no bite marks, so this one may look like a little bit of a bust. Number 6, the Kennebec Inn. The Kennebec Inn is a historic inn located in Kennebec, Maine that has more than a few guests checking out as ghost believers. The inn was built in 1799 and has been in operation for over 200 years. And as we see, the pattern is tend to tell us that the longer a hotel is up and running, the more time there is for a few ghosts to call it their home. The Kennebec Inn is just one of those places. Visitors claim that the inn is haunted by the ghost of a former guest who passed away here. According to the legend, the ghost of a woman can be seen walking the halls of the inn and also can be seen moving objects around and throwing them at people. As well, a former innkeeper has passed away in a fire at this hotel, and his ghost is seen spotted by many guests who claim to see her charred up body inside of the lobby. The most notorious room in this inn is room 17, where the lights will just turn on in the middle of the night. Although I don't really know if this is just scary or really annoying. And many guests have opted to not clean the room after encountering things out of the ordinary. So guess you know what to do next. Book a stay here. In the hump of our list, we have Seguin Island Lighthouse. The Seguin Island Lighthouse is a historic lighthouse located on Seguin Island off the coast of Maine. The lighthouse was built in 1795 and is one of the oldest lighthouses in the United States. With that being said, also considered one of the most haunted lighthouses in the United States as well. The lighthouse has a rich history and has been the subject of many stories and legends. One such legend is that of a ghost of a former lighthouse keeper named Isaac Dunham, who haunts the lighthouse to this day. According to the legend, Dunham drowned in the waters near the island after going out on a routine walk, and now his ghost haunts the lighthouse and the waters around it. They say he appears to visitors who walk near the lighthouse or island, and other times his face will be seen poking out of the water, watching your every single move. Another legend associated with this island is that it's haunted by the ghost of a woman whose husband was murdered on this island. The legend says that the woman's ghost can be heard crying and moaning at night, and that her ghostly figure can be seen walking around asking visitors where her husband is. Number 4, the ghost ship of the Damariscotta. The ghost ship of the Damariscotta is a ghostly vessel that appears on the Damariscotta River. This ship is said to be the ghost ship of a pirate ship that was sunk by the British Navy many years ago. This occurred in the early 1850s when the 210-foot ship named the Ellen Austin was strolling through the river on their way to New York. After a few days, their ship got lost in a heavy mist, and when they came out, they seemed to have just vanished out of thin air. Then 2 days later, their ship was back, and when an investigation was done, it was found that no crew was on board. Another odd thing was that everything looked perfectly normal, like there wasn't any sort of panic or whatever. However, none of the ship's logs were found, only giving its story more mystery. Nowadays, residents around the river claim to see a ghostly ship in the distance, usually when it's foggy, pointing out responsibility to the Ellen Austin, saying it's on its way to its watery grave. Number 3, the Mothman of Maine. Everyone should know the Mothman, but it's said that this creature originated from the state of Maine. The Mothman is a mysterious creature that is said to have been sighted in the woods of northern Maine. Sightings of the Mothman started in the 1960s when a group of hunters claimed to have seen a large winged creature in the woods near Moosehead Lake. The creature was described as being humanoid in appearance with glowing red eyes and wings that were covered in fur. Over time, more sightings of the Mothman occurred and the legend just kept on growing. Some people claim to have seen the creature flying through the skies over northern Maine, while others have seen it lurking in the woods or even in their own backyards. Regardless, the number of witnesses to the Mothman has led this creature to become an international sensation. Or maybe it just uses wings to fly to other locations. Well, in that case, Number 2, Fort William Henry. Fort William Henry was a British fort located in the town of Pemaquid, Maine. The fort was built in 1692 and was used to protect the town and its residents from attacks by the French and their Native American allies. The fort was the site of a famous siege in 1757 during the French and Indian War and was eventually captured and burned by the French. However, the event that made this whole place cursed happened in 1696 when Native American chief Tacalexis was hung by the fort. Local legend has it that he haunts a historic site to this day. Today, Fort William Henry is a popular tourist attraction and is open to the public for tours. The fort has been restored to its original appearance, but guests come out claiming to see the spirit walking the grounds, and others claim that his neck is bent in the same way he got hung. Number 1, the Blackwoods Road. Blackwoods Road is a remote, desolate road that is said to be haunted by the ghosts of those who passed away there. The legend of the Blackwoods Road is thought to have originated in the early 1900s when the road was a fairly new and poorly maintained thoroughfare. At the time, the road was known for its many sharp turns and steep inclines, which made it treacherous to navigate. Many people who use the road would often get lost or stranded, and some even passed away in the many accidents that occurred here. Eventually, as the casualties racked up, people started to believe that the Blackwoods Road was cursed and also was haunted by the ghosts who have passed away there. This is because some who've driven down this road have claimed to have seen strange lights or heard eerie noises coming from the woods along the road. Others have reported seeing a figure stand in front of their car before completely disappearing just upon impact.